Hey students, hope you guys have an amazing day. Oops, sorry, series. Sorry about that, guys. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. Whenever it is that you see this video, this is Mr. Jungi, Mr. J, and because of you guys' class schedule on Monday, we're gonna go ahead and take a different approach and record this lecture for you guys to watch sometime before Wednesday's class. As far as preparation for Wednesday's class, as I'll probably mention on Monday, just come prepared. Myself and the practicum students haven't exactly decided what it is we are going to do as far as an assessment for your guys' classes on Wednesday. We don't plan on having a big test, so no need to sweat over that. Just come prepared as we might dive into looking at some readings or do some group work to cover the last two lessons. Those two lessons, of course, industrialization and labor movements, which is what we covered on Thursday, and now the lesson of unification of Germany and Italy. So, with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to clear this stuff out of the way for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and load this up, and we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so as I said, this is the unification of Germany and Italy. So the learning objectives for this, you guys will be able to identify and examine the events that led to the unification of Germany and Italy, and you'll also be able to explain what unification means, and also locate the differences of unification between Germany and Italy. So diving in, I'll give you a little backstory of everything as far as what you need to know for the unification and what led up to all this. During this time, the Holy Roman Empire controlled most of Europe, so they controlled all this land, even from the Middle Ages, which is the 800s, all the way up to the 1800s. The mid 19th century, Holy Roman Empire had a rivalry between the kingdoms of Austria and Prussia. These are two important rivalries, two important kingdoms to be sure about. Oops, sorry. Just to know, because they were the largest and most powerful German city states, most powerful empires and kingdoms during this time. We'll dive into this next slide about how the Holy Roman Empire was broken down after the French Revolution by Napoleon. So, of course, this created a lot of uncertainty in Germany. This is where we're going to start talking about Germany first, and then we'll have you guys watch a video, and then we're going to go ahead and talk about Italy in the next slides after that. So that's the little outline for that. So, as far as the uncertainty of Germans and the German city-states, Napoleon Bonaparte I, also known as Napoleon I, was the French emperor during this time. Mostly known for dissolving the Holy Roman Empire in the years 1806 to 1812. This would eventually lead to the creation of the Rhine Confederation. The Rhine Confederation was an agreement for German city-states to be ruled under the French Empire, thus under Napoleon. You might be asking yourself what a city-state is. That's all right. City-state is an independent city that has power over territory and serves as a center of political, economic, and cultural/social life. So in a sense, these cities were territories, and they kind of ran their own kind of things under a certain agenda. In this case, the French Empire, and believed in their political, economic, social, cultural policies. Throughout these couple years that we're talking about, obviously in 1812, the Rhine Confederation, we see all these territory lines become changed, and in 1814 the Congress of Vienna changed the German city-states again. So they changed the territory lines once again, and this will eventually lead to the formation of the German Confederation led by Austria. Okay, so this is where we started to see the movement begin. This is the movement of the German Revolution. So we see this happen in 1848. This is where the people, are wanting the creation of a written constitution. They want freedom granted to them, as well as free speech, freedom of press, and they also want to see the formation of a parliament government. In this time, Emperor Ferdinand of Austria sent his chancellor Metternich to put down these rebellions that were going on. Um, and like we saw in the labor movements, we saw these kind of take a little bit of time and how they were shut down from governments. Um, these actually, the rebellions that happened were actually um, a lot for the emperor and chancellor themselves, and this eventually led them to force to concede and allow a constitution and parliament to come into place. So the movement, just continues on. We're going to take a look at who Frederick William IV was. Um, King Frederick William IV reassured to recognize Germany as a unified government. And on March 6th of 1848, he met with rebels from the rebellions to discuss all the things that they wanted, with a written constitution, um, and we explained freedom of speech, freedom of press, and just these basic rights and all that sort of stuff. This was known as the Frankfurt Assembly of 1848, and the rebels wanted William IV to rule, but eventually he declined, um, thus resulting in the failure of unification. Which at this time, this is what they wanted. They wanted unification. However, there was some good out of it, as this led to the rise of nationalism, which is kind of something that we're going to talk about as we go on and through the presentation. So again, the movement just keeps on continuing. So Germany, obviously during this time, after unification fell through, they're still controlled or dominated over by Great Britain, France, Russia, and Austria. So between the years of 1848, where the German Revolution, tried to start, German Confederation was put back under Austrian power. During this time, we're going to see Prussia on the rise, which is one of the other kingdoms that we see that are, very powerful. And we're going to see a new king, King Wilhelm the First. He becomes king in 1861, and we'll also look at the Prime Minister Otto von. That's supposed to be an O, so I think there's a couple throughout the slide. Otto von Bismarck. Yep. So again, like I said, that's supposed to be an O. So Otto von Bismarck, he was the son of a five-generation conservative Prussian noble. So he was part of the big Prussian family. That ruled the Prussian Empire for a long time. In 1851 to 1862, he served as a diplomat of European powers. And during his time as serving as a diplomat, he learned a lot of strengths and weaknesses throughout all the countries when we talk about Great Britain, France, Russia, and Austria. So we do see that he learns a lot of strengths and weaknesses. And obviously, this is going to help him in the long run because in 1861, he is appointed Chancellor of Germany, which is a very powerful position when, we can compare it to a U.S. president in today's world. With the U.S. president, there's the system of checks and balances, so that gives um, equal power, equal representation between the three branches. Um, in a sense, the Chancellor of Germany kind of has the power to do a lot more than just what the U.S. president would do. So that kind of just puts into consideration how powerful the position of Chancellor was. And then next in the next slide, we'll talk about his implemented policies of iron and blood and realpolitik. So starting off with realpolitik, this was a policy that was put into place, a belief that making decisions based on the needs of state rather than having strict politics ideas. Um, so again, in this sense, this really helped with the rise of nationalism across Europe. Um, yeah, so, and then we look at iron and blood policy. This was a belief. This was more of kind of a policy agreement, just kind of saying that he will, use war to further Prussia's agenda if he needs to. And of course, we see this happen. So this leads to a series of wars to try to unify Germany. So Otto von Bismarck and Germany's wars, when we look at it, in 1846, Bismarck allies with Austria to seize German-speaking provinces. And just 2 years later, actually, Prussia eventually creates a secret alliance with Italy. And during this time, it led to the war with Austria, thus resulting in Austria having no more power over Germany. So, in this sense, Prussia and Austria were the two, you know, um, biggest and most dominant empires during this time. So once Prussia, creates that secret alliance with Italy and pushes out Austria, we're going to see Prussia on the rise. Lastly, the last war that we're going to talk about um, is the Franco-Prussian War. Um, and here we're going to see Otto von Bismarck trying to take that step from German Confederation to the German Empire. So he's going to try to keep unifying and build his what he wants to be empire. So prior to the Franco-Prussian War, he talks to Prince Leopold into accepting the throne of Spain. And France hears about this. They become a little bit scared, become a little bit frightened. Eventually, Leopold does decline the offer just because of the hostility that was faced from France. Um, and a little bit after this time, when this, you could say like rumor comes around, Napoleon III sent his ambassador to meet the Prussian king at Bad Ems. Bad Ems is a town in Germany. Um, there is a video that in the next slide that I'll kind of show you guys that'll be able to explain all that stuff a little bit more in detail. Um, but Bismarck would eventually leak an edited Ems telegram, which was just kind of a Telegram program. And what he did is he edited the words that Napoleon III, his ambassador, said, published it, and humiliated France, or tried to. Eventually, that did humiliate the French and Napoleon III, and this would result in declared war on Prussia on July 19th, 1870. So here I'm gonna show you guys the video. This is actually the video from the book. So if there are any audio troubles, you'll be able to find this under module 22.2, Unification of Germany and Italy. It's the only video that's on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this for you guys. So here we go. Right. So that was that video. Again, hopefully there were no audio issues, but if so, hopefully by now you were able to listen in on that. So heading back to the slideshow here. Um, we're going to talk about kind of what happened next with Germany before, in the next slide, we're going to start talking about Italy. So Germany was a little bit late to the beginning of industrialization. Um, During this time, Bismarck, started to expel and get rid of socialists and Catholics from the German Empire, which they said in January of 1871. That's when they became the German Empire. Um, so from there, Bismarck still tried to expel some people, get rid of people. So he actually tried to expel the Jesuits from Germany. This actually is what kind of where things spiraled and went downhill. This oppressed the socialist workers. They did not like it, resulting in Bismarck forcing to resign in 1890. And this is where Emperor Wilhelm steps up as Chancellor of Germany. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and switch over to Italy. We're also going to rewind the timeline a little bit back to 1814, where down here we're talking about the Congress of Vienna again and how um, it was on and how things went down over in Italy. So similar to Germany, Italy did have several city states for much of its history. Nationalism was becoming more prominent in the Italian region earlier than what happened in Germany. So at the Congress of Vienna in 1814, Italian nationalists requested unification, but were actually ignored. This would eventually lead to the creation of secret societies that would start to expel the Austrian forces. One being known as the Carbonaria, which we do not cover too much, but it is in the book. Not much to worry about there. However, we are going to talk next about nationalist thinker Giuseppe Mazzini. Um, he was a nationalist thinker during this time. He joined a secret society that Italy, they were creating in 1827. A very dedicated man. He dedicated his life to unification, eventually becoming the leader of the Italian Revolution. His movement gained traction from the 1830s to about 1849, with his movements called Giovanni Italia, which was a belief that people only needed God to rule. Like I said, the movement was put down in 1849. However, revolutionaries fought and took Rome, instating a republic. So this is kind of what sets the framework for unification for Italy. So a little bit different kind of timeline between Italy and Germany, thanks to Giuseppe Mazzini. So the next person that we look at in 1848, a man named Count Camillo Cavour, kind of puts together a movement to establish a constitutional monarchy in Italy, and thus, 4 years later, becomes the prime minister. That's what that PM stands for in 1852. Similar to um, Similar to Bismarck's beliefs, he as well, Cavour, believed in realpolitik and he favored the liberal ideas. Similar to, as well as Bismarck, wanted Austria power gone. A secret deal was struck with Napoleon III in the War of 1859. And eventually, this would lead to the proclamation of the Kingdom of Italy in 1861. So eventually, Italy was now a unified nation by 1861. So that's what happened there. In 1861, we see King Victor Emmanuel become the king of Italy, the Kingdom of Italy. Um, Italy still didn't have power over Rome and Venice. So that's something that we do see. We'll talk about kind of the problems that does cause in the later years on the next slide. However, with negotiations and similar ideas that Bismarck and Cavour had, um, they were able to. So after the Austro-Prussian War, Italy would negotiate with Bismarck to gain the cities of Naples and Venice. Um, Again, with the similar ideas they had a good relationship to a sense. And after the Franco-Prussian War, Italy would then try to negotiate powers to control Rome. So, like I said, this led to a couple problems um, as far as that. So we did see some differences in culture on the different states. This led to the decisions, led to a bunch of decisions and goals having to be thought about um, between the government and the national goals. Um, Again, they faced hostility from the Holy Roman Church because they annexed Rome. Um, but in the end, the solution to all this, they were able to fulfill their goal of creating a constitutional monarchy, and even suffrage, which is voting rights, was expanded to the men. So a little bit of a recap, kind of what happens next. Wars caused a lot of the treaties and fractured the unity of Europe as a whole. So with the four main countries that we saw, with Great Britain, France, um, Russia, and Austria, those first four that controlled Germany. Before that we talked about in the lesson, we see all these countries kind of dispersed from each other. And the efforts of the Congress of Vienna were reversed. There was a new power that comes into play that is established. Um, with all this eventually leads, with the rivalries and all that, leads into World War One, which is what you guys are going to talk about after your spring break with Mr. Metcalf. So usually, if we were in person, we kind of go through all these. Um, I will have Mr. Metcalf be able to share with you guys you should have access to the worksheet. It just asks a couple questions, so just keep in mind kind of who these guys were, as these were the important people, concepts throughout the unification of Germany and Italy. Um, I know I'm running out of time because I know there's a time limit on this. Um, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me, myself, or Mr. Metcalf, um, just about anything that we've covered. If you ever have any questions, obviously you will have the access to replay the video or go back to a certain part that maybe you were uncertain of. Um, as far as that, that's all I have for you guys today. Um, just kind of going over everything. As far as looking into Wednesday, not exactly sure what we're gonna do as far as an assessment, but just become prepared. Now that we've went over the unification of Germany and Italy, just have that in mind, as well as the industrial labor movements, um, and just all that stuff. That's all I have for you guys today. Thanks again for you guys' cooperation. I know we had to adjust just because of the class time that you guys have on Monday. If there's any other questions, like I said, feel free to reach out to me. I have my email. I'm going to go ahead. I don't know how I do this. Here is my email. Just kind of go on the fly with it. Um, that is my email. That's gonna be my school email. That's something I'll be checking. Kind of, I check that every day. You usually try to get multiple times of the day. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. As far as any questions over the content that we've discussed. Um, so that's all that. Otherwise, thanks again for tuning in. I know we had a little different agenda compared to other classes. But yes, as far as Monday's preparation, I don't know if you'll see this before. But we're going to finish up that strike activity and end off with a video just because of your guys' short class period. Thanks again, guys. Do not hesitate if you have any questions. Feel free to reach out to Mr. Metcalf or myself. Thanks for your time.